Yo, what's going on? Mike from Mike Talk Sports. After the 24-22 dramatic defeat against the Denver Broncos, the Buffalo Bills fired their offensive coordinator today, Ken Dorsey, and promoted their quarterback coach, Joe Brady, to be their new offensive coordinator. So in today's episode of Mike Talk Sports, we're going to be diving into Joe Brady, his coaching history dating back to his LSU and his New Orleans Saints days, and we're going to be diving a little bit into his scheme and the situation going on with the Buffalo Bills in order to determine, can Joe Brady fix the Buffalo Bills offense? Just something to note before we dive into Joe Brady though, throughout the first 10 games of the season, the Buffalo Bills are 7th in total yards and they are 8th in total points, pretty solid, but again, they are 5-5 at the moment. The defense has been struggling, which is an unrelated issue, but the main issue with this offense, make no mistake about it, is Josh Allen and the turnovers. Josh Allen leads the league in interceptions, and overall, the Buffalo Bills are tied for second with 18 total turnovers. In 2017, Joe Brady was hired by Sean Payton in the New Orleans Saints to be an offensive assistant, and the Saints offense was very prolific during this time at the end of the Drew Brees era, and this was good enough to get him a job with LSU in 2019, and that's really where Joe Brady bursted onto the scene as one of the hot commodities for a young coach. So in 2019 with LSU, he was hired to be the passing game coordinator and the wide receiver coach. I think there is a common misconception with Joe Brady that he was the offensive coordinator of that LSU team, and overall he called every play, he ran the entire offense, where this is not the case. Again, he was just the passing game coordinator and the wide receiver coach, rarely calling plays. Regardless of this though, Joe Brady had a phenomenal season. He won the award for the top assistant in all of college football. LSU went 15-0 this year, and they scored 726 points against an incredibly tough schedule. They actually had 7 wins versus, at the time of facing them, top 10 teams in all of college football. In the 2019 LSU Tigers are widely considered to have the best offense in the history of college football. They also had a pretty solid offensive line. Now, while they did not grade out that well per PFF, they were awarded with a college football award to be the best offensive line in all of college football. Now, this is where the waters became a bit muddy with Joe Brady, and really, how good is Joe Brady considering the insane talent pool on this LSU team? They had offensive linemen such as Lloyd Cushenberry, who went on to be good NFL pros. Not only this, but more importantly, they had Joe Burrow, who was absolutely surgical and honestly outright phenomenal. In my opinion, Joe Burrow in 2019 displayed the best mental processor out of any quarterback in the history of college football. Not only this, but of course his play extension ability was very special this year as well. So Joe Brady being paired with this special quarterback, one of the best in the history of college football, certainly helped him a lot. What also helped him out a lot was, of course, the wide receiver room. Not only did they have guys like Terrence Marshall, but more importantly, they had Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, 2 of the top 10 receivers in the National Football League. They also had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was a very good college running back at the time, specifically at the receiving game. So, of course, it was a huge question mark coming into Joe Brady's NFL career with the Carolina Panthers in 2020. How good was he going to be, or was he just a product of a great situation with great talent? Now, this brings us to 2020. So again, he's coming off of an incredible season with LSU, and he was a very hot commodity, not only in the college football world, but also in the NFL world. He was a very young guy at the time, only 30 years old, so he was thought to be this next Sean McVay. So when Matt Rule touched down in Carolina for the Panthers, he brought Joe Brady to be his offensive coordinator. And this, of course, went very poorly, not only for Matt Rule, but for Joe Brady as well. He only lasted about 1.5 years. Now, from a statistical standpoint, in his first year with Carolina, they ranked 24th in overall points and 21st in overall yards. Then in his second season, let's flash forward to early December, he was at the time ranked 29th in total points for the Carolina Panthers and 30th in total yards, and there started to be a lot of friction between him and Matt Rule, as Joe Brady and the Joe Brady system is very conservative when it comes to running the football. They certainly genuinely just don't like running the football. They kind of use that short passing game as an extension to the run game, and Matt Rule is more of that traditional mind in the sense that he wanted to run the football a significant amount. So of course, naturally, when these two very different ideologies combined and clashed, this caused Matt Rule to move on from Joe Brady in early December of his second season being the offensive coordinator of the Carolina Panthers. Now, to come to Joe Brady's defense a little bit, of course, he had really bad quarterback play, far from what he had in 2019 at LSU. He had Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, Cam Newton, and PJ Walker. Certainly nothing to write home about, but he did have some pretty talented skill position players in there. He did have DJ Moore, who I really like, Curtis Samuel, who has a nice skill set to him that did match Joe Brady's scheme in a lot of ways. He did have Christian McCaffrey as well, but they really did have an abysmal offensive line. So this brings us to the offseason of 2022. When Brian Daboll left, the offensive coordinator position with the Bills vacated as he was hired to be the New York Giants head coach. So the Buffalo Bills then promoted their quarterback coach at the time, Ken Dorsey, to be the new offensive coordinator. Then this left an opening for their quarterback coaching job, in which they hired Joe Brady to take over these duties. Now I'm going to be diving a little bit into Joe Brady's scheme, what he really liked doing at LSU, and what he did in Carolina a lot. And when I'm going over his scheme and when I'm analyzing Joe Brady's scheme, first and foremost, I just can't help but think, hey, how is this that much different from Ken Dorsey's scheme? How is this that much different from the Brian Daboll scheme? And to be completely honest, guys, it is very similar. So Joe Brady loves the base scheme of a spread offense, which is what he ran in LSU and Carolina as well. One of his main staples of his entire offense is that dagger concept. So with a dagger concept, you're going to have a dig and drag combination with either a post on the same side or a post corner on the opposite side of the field. Something you'll notice out of Joe Brady, especially at his time with LSU and with Carolina, and something he obviously got from Sean Payton, is the utilization of the running back. Instead of using them to a significant degree in the run game, and instead of focusing on scheming up the run game to a significant amount, they instead focus on that passing game and that short passing game to be an extension of the run game, especially with those running backs. Of course, dating back to his time with the Saints and Sean Payton always loved getting guys going, such as Darren Sproles and Alvin Kamara. And then later, of course, with Joe Brady, he did work with Alvin Kamara as well. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a great season with LSU, being a very dangerous receiving back coming out of the backfield. And Christian McCaffrey, of course, did very well with Joe Brady coming out of the backfield as that receiving back as well. So expect to see a significantly increased role for James Cook in the receiving game, as this was something he was good at Georgia as well. But do I think Joe Brady is going to fix a part of the problem with this offense, which is the run game? Honestly, I don't. He just has never really shown a history of being a good run game coordinator. And similarly to Brian Daboll and Ken Dorsey as well, he loves utilizing those empty formations. He likes utilizing those trip formations as well that spreads the defense out horizontally rather than vertically. And he is one of those offensive minds who does like stressing out the horizontal sideline to sideline roles of coverage players such as linebackers, safeties, and corners rather than vertically, which honestly just does not fit this personnel group, as this is something that Gabe Davis is not good at. He's more of that vertical receiver rather than that horizontal receiver, but this is something I can see Dalton Kincaid and Stephon Diggs succeeding at. While Joe Brady certainly is not Kyle Shanahan in the sense of his use of motion, he certainly is going to scheme up a good amount of motions in his offense, as he likes using those short motions as a tell for the coverage for the defense, making it easier for Josh Allen to predict what coverage he's going to be looking at, along with momentum going into a route, especially on those dagger concepts for that drag in the dig drag combination. Something where I did see Joe Brady's offense struggle in Carolina though are some of the shorter game concepts that he did run in the passing game, as he loves those stick concepts, as every NFL team does, but some NFL teams like to favor the out routes on the stick concepts, and some like to utilize those hook routes in the slot for their tight ends and their slot receiver. And Joe Brady is definitely in the camp of using those quick hooks over the quick outs, which really struggles against man coverage as it does not space out the field and create separation, but it is good against zone coverages. But I honestly envision seeing Josh Allen throw a couple of interceptions on these routes, as again, it just does not create separation against man coverage at an NFL level. So after all of that, to answer the question of the video, can Joe Brady fix the Buffalo Bills offense? No, he cannot, guys. He's way too similar to Ken Dorsey. And while I do like Joe Brady, and I think he does have a future in the NFL as a potential offensive coordinator and a potential head coach candidate a few years down the road, is this going to be the destination in which he sees this come to fruition? No, I do not think so. I honestly think Sean McDermott and this entire coaching staff will be cleared out at the end of the season, and they most likely will hire an offensive mind to come in at head coach, making Joe Brady basically obsolete on this team and having him have to find a new destination this offseason. So the main two issues with this Bills offense is the turnovers and it is the run game at times, and this is something I just don't see Joe Brady's scheme bringing a significant amount of detail to. I honestly just really struggle to see how Joe Brady is going to prevent Josh Allen from throwing an incredible amount of interceptions and turnover-worthy plays, something he's somewhat struggled with throughout his career, but it's really rearing its ugly head at this season at this point. But thank you guys so much for watching today's episode of Mike Talk Sports. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on Joe Brady? And do you agree with my take that Sean McDermott and Joe Brady will be fired from the Buffalo Bills at the end of the season? Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about that? And if you enjoyed today's episode and listened until the end, I really appreciate it, guys. Smack that like and hit subscribe.